To the couple next to me that smelled of recreational during this movie, I hope you had a good time. I hope you're okay, and I don't envy you. Welcome to the channel, guinea pigs. I just experienced The Substance, directed by Coralie Farge. Miss Coralie, what have you done?
What have you done?
This is a body horror movie starring Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley, and Dennis Quaid. Elizabeth Sparkle is a TV movie icon with her own fitness show, and on her 50th birthday, she is fired to be replaced by new young talent. She is then introduced to a black market drug called the Substance, which is designed to create a younger and better version of yourself. All you have to do is follow this one rule. You must switch back every 7 days. But as for all rules written in movies, they are meant to be broken. I've been wanting to watch this since it was first shown at Cannes and the outpouring reception from that movie. As someone that is still trying to fall in love with cinema, I'm still exploring horror and all the many subgenres of horror. But this is actually my first body horror film, and it did not disappoint. All I knew is that going into this, it was going to be absolutely gnarly, and I can confirm it's absolutely gnarly.
Gnarly dudes! Alright! Yeah!
The sound design, the production design on this movie is insanity. Shout out to Rafferty for the score. More electronic scores in these movies, please. Between Challengers and this, those two are my two favorite scores of the year. Let's talk performances because Demi Moore is great. I know she's had an established career and she's celebrated. I have only seen the original About Last Night, and I know she voices Esmeralda in The Hunchback of Notre Dame. I also know at one point she was the highest paid actress for her role in the movie Striptease. She's basically been in the limelight for all her career, and she's been this sex symbol for all this time as well. So when I say she embodies this role of aging starlet Elizabeth Sparkle, she does this spectacularly. She has great facial expressions of bitterness and sadness and jealousy, and when she gets angry, she gets angry. Margaret Qualley plays the younger entity, Sue, and Margaret is stunning by all accounts. She's commanding of the camera and screen, and she knows how to balance the energy from Demi Moore. And then there's Dennis Quaid, who brings some levity as Harvey the Executive. No, that's not a coincidence. Harvey the Executive. He's a character whose breath you can smell through the screen. He's gross, he's loud, he's dismissive. You hate his character, and yet I was smiling at him throughout the entire movie. They make him do some crazy ass shots. The urinal POV, the shrimp lunge, he's just sleazy as hell. He's smoking all the time. He owns that role. It may be hyperbole to some, but I have no doubt that there are some men in the industry, in the world, generally speaking, that present themselves like this and have Harvey's mindset. The first third of The Substance explores how beauty standards are pushed upon women, especially with age. The movie is not subtle. The camera work is invasive, and you see every inch of Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley, and all props to them for being so down to perform like this. But it's also interesting how the camera behaves between our two main women. Sue is always filmed with this vibrancy and excitement, whether she's clothed or not. Gyrating hips, shaking ass, a strong admiration in the bathroom mirror. Compare that to Elizabeth, who gets camera time in a more critical manner. We focus on her scars, her sagging breasts. I shouldn't have to explain how women face more societal pressure to fit the mold, especially to beauty standards. Having a public platform only amplifies these pressures to a level that I can't even fathom. It makes it easy to see why someone in Elizabeth's position who's losing her starlight may fall for something like The Substance. But it is harrowing to the extent that Elizabeth is willing to go to stay relevant, especially after that first initial process of activation. The correlations to things to like plastic surgery, Botox, weight loss drugs like Ozempic, it does make you look at these methods and seeing the risk and then really asking yourself, is this worth it? But beauty is pain. This movie is centered around the female perspective surrounding this matter, but there is one nod to a male character that is also using the substance. And I do appreciate the little nod because this is not an exclusive thing to just women, even though, again, The women's perspective is the main focus, and it is arguably much worse. Actually, not arguably, it is a lot worse.
A little lipstick. Touch me with that and I'll break your arm.
Keeping up that outward appearance and persona is exhausting and it's draining. And what does this younger body have to do to the older body every single day? Literally drain the host body of stabilizer of spinal fluid to maintain themselves. There are a couple other themes that the movie touches on, like a balance of what you need versus what you want, how the industry and fame can be exploitive and self-destructive. But the part of the movie that was actually getting me emotional is the one explored in the second act, which is an intense exploration of self-hatred. This is where things get more and more psychological. There are some repeated phrases in the movie, like, you are one, you can't escape yourself, in reference to older Elizabeth and Sue. Remember, the substance isn't necessarily a drug to make a younger you. That's why Sue doesn't necessarily look like Demi Moore. Sue is a combination of all the good things that Elizabeth sees in herself. All the things that Elizabeth finds confident in herself and lovable about herself is implanted into Sue. And that leaves Matrix Elizabeth a complete husk. She doesn't leave the apartment. She's watching her younger self receive all the accolades and attentions that she never wanted to lose in the first place. She's binge eating and falling into eating disorders. She's forced to look at a portrait of her younger self in the living room and forced to look at Sue's billboard outside of her apartment window, and they both tower over her constantly throughout the film. This, of course, instills and festers in the thoughts of inadequacies that drove Elizabeth to try the substance in the first place, and all the energy and fervor that is being drained from Elizabeth is leaving her with nothing. There is one scene where Elizabeth is attempting to fight all of this. She wants to go out on a date, but she keeps redoing her makeup. She keeps putting on accessories. She keeps judging herself in the mirror, and it becomes so infuriating for her that she ultimately gives up. This part actually brought me pretty close to tears, because I've been in a position where I've looked at myself in the mirror and been like, you don't deserve love today. It's such a low point to reach that seeing anyone fall into that false narrative of themselves is really, really tough. It also culminates in a scene later in the film that feels extremely visceral and bloody in its self-hatred. I was fully entranced by the first two acts of this movie, so I was not prepared for Act 3. I don't know if the movie necessarily got worse, but it definitely went in a different direction than where we were originally. I do appreciate the fact that the heavier themes of depression, self-hatred, and self-sabotage were sandwiched between an energetic first act and a completely cuckoo bananas third act.
What?
I'm not going to spoil what happens in the third act, but up until this point, the body horror wasn't crazy. Yes, it's grotesque. Yeah, some people might be turned off by it. I personally was not. But slowly over time, it spiked in grotesqueness. And then that grotesqueness said, hold my beer, and it became even worse. It wasn't like I needed to turn away or close my eyes, but I couldn't bring myself to turn away or close my eyes either. I was just so locked in and focused on whatever was happening on the screen. The last 20 to 30 minutes are going to make or break this movie for you, because it gets ridiculous. If this last portion of the movie taught me anything or convinced me of anything, this needs a Best Makeup nomination at the Oscars this year.
I need it!
And in an alternate universe where the Oscars respected genre films more, this would absolutely get screenplay. Demi Moore would get attention for her role in lead actress. I would love it if Coralie Farge could get a directing nomination, or at least some strong consideration. If anyone is going to do justice on the female experience of how beauty is pain in all facets, it's her. And not only that, she has put forward some of the gnarliest visuals put to screen in a long time. Like Longlegs Who? Oddity What? This is the most grisly horror of the year. It's going to be tough to beat in the next 3 months, period. So overall, I clearly cannot recommend this movie to everyone. If you can't hold your lunch to needle injections, to squishiness, to lots of blood and fluid, everything in between, you're not going to vibe with this movie. My mind was being pulled apart slowly. I have friends that want to watch this, and I may be willing to subject myself to this again. Maybe now that I know what's happening, things will align better on a rewatch. But for now, I am going to give The Substance 4.5 out of 5 stars. Thank you for watching. My name is Kyle, and I am still falling in love with the medium of cinema. And if you want to join me on that journey with more movie reviews, rankings, deep dives, you should hit subscribe. You should hit the bell, and you should follow me on Letterboxd. That's where I'll update the score for The Substance if I do watch this again. What did you think of The Substance? What other body horror movies should I watch? October is in a couple weeks. Don't forget to like the video, and until next time, that's a wrap.